All right, so abundant family relationships. First, what I like to do is go over some principles that we'll see as we go through these verses, um, and then as we're going through them, hopefully they'll be in the back of your mind and see them kind of come out in the verses that we're looking at. So there are proper roles within the family. There's an authority structure. Our culture doesn't like that there's really any kind of authority. But according to the Bible, there are proper roles in the family. Again, our culture brushes up against that, doesn't like that. One, because it doesn't take wisdom seriously, because wisdom is accumulated knowledge and practical advice over a long period of requires lifetimes and lifetimes of living, and it gets distilled down into proverbs, but it's all from the past. It's all from past experience. That's where wisdom comes from. It comes from practical life experience. If you're young, you lack that. But everything in our culture is progress. Youth have the answers. We should ask the young people what we should do and follow their advice, even though they lack all of this practical life experience. Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't. But that's just like you flip the whole worldview upside down and yeah. So all of that to say, there are proper roles within a family. There is an authority structure. Parents are in charge of this sounds really basic, right? Like, whoa, groundbreaking stuff. Yeah, in our culture, it is, which is wild, right? And I I am self-aware enough to realize that just looking at the audience right now, most of you are older than me, and I'm preaching to the choir, as it were. But these are truths from the Word of God, and we need to be reminded of them. Um, Salute the rank, not the man. So I was watching a military show, and at the beginning of the show, there's one character going through basic training, and his commanding officer in basic training was awful, terrible leader, treated the whole company like trash. And then by the end of the show, the character that was treated like trash, he was a major. The guy that was training him wasn't promoted, so he had to salute the guy that he was treating poorly at the beginning of the show. And you could tell just by the look on his face, he's like, he wanted to pretend like he wasn't passing the major, right? So he wouldn't have to acknowledge him and then salute him. And the major is just, he's a very wise man. The whole show is like, he's awesome. He's the best leader that you could possibly want. And as he's passing by, he can see the look on this guy's face. Like, I know you don't like me, right? Like, he can tell. He goes, you salute the rank, not the man. Like, ignore this. It's all about the leaf right here on my collar. That's it. Not about our personal relationship. Salute the rank, not the man. Well, if there's a proper authority structure, family, and let's say you have terrible parents, are you still supposed to honor them? You salute the rank, not the man. It's a principle. Your actions have an effect on everyone in the family. This will become abundant. Like Proverbs is all about that. Like, do not think that you are an island to yourself. Your actions affect everyone, and that's every person within the family. We might be thinking, oh, of course, those children, they just run around and do crazy things, and oh, it makes me so frustrated. It's like, no, parents, your actions affect your children. Probably more so, children's actions affecting you. That'll have a, yeah. Family is a blessing. All God's people said. But it's not an automatic blessing. Not all parents are good. Not all kids obey. Not like it. Children are a blessing of the Lord. The Bible says so. They are a heritage, right? Sometimes you just have to take that indicative and believe it because it's not playing out in front of me right now. That takes faith. That takes a lot of faith. Family is a blessing, but it's not automatic. You have to work, have a robust, abundant family relationships. Those are the principles. Got a little preaching in there too. All right, Proverbs 1, 8 through 9. My son, hear, hear, hear the instruction of thy father, and forsake not the law of thy mother. For they shall be an ornament of grace unto thy head and chains about thy neck. And then similarly, next one, Proverbs 23, 22 through 25. Hearken. Again, that's like hear, listen, take it in, understand. Hearken unto thy father that begat thee, and despise not. So despise is to think low or to like, that's not important. Despise not thy mother when she is old. Buy the truth. So acquire it, buy it. Use what you have to get more truth and sell it not. Also, wisdom and instruction and understanding. Those are the things that are most important. Getting more money is not like use your money to get these things. Father of the righteous shall greatly rejoice, and he that begetteth a wise child shall have joy of him. Thy father and thy mother shall be glad, she that bare thee shall rejoice. We're going to hit probably about 6 of these and then summarize them. Proverbs 10, 1. So again, it says the Proverbs of Solomon. It says that because chapter 10 is where chapters 1 through 9 is like a giant introduction. Chapter 10 is where these shorter proverb phrases all start. So it's like, all right, new section, the Proverbs of Solomon. So that's why that's there. A wise son maketh a glad father, but a foolish son is the heaviness of his mother. Heaviness, like grief. Proverbs 15:20. A wise son maketh a glad father, but a foolish man despiseth his mother. (17:21). He that begetteth a fool doeth it to his sorrow. Father of a fool hath no joy in having a fool for a son. Foolish son is a grief to his father and bitterness to her that bare him. So, there are proper rules. Parents are teachers, and children are disciples. Parents are teachers, children are disciples. That's where your part of your authority is to teach them in the way that they should go. Right? Discipleship starts at home. You can't outsource it to the church. You just expect the church to take your child and teach them all the moral things and how to follow God, and then you're not reiterating it and living it at home, it will not work. Well, your son or your daughter will become because they'll see 2 different standards, and it'll be hypocrisy, and they'll be like, oh, I see how this game is played. I'll just be two-faced. I'll live one way when I'm at church, and then I'll live another way when I'm at home, because that's how the world works. Or at least that's what I see my parents demonstrating to me every day, every week. So this is a high calling for parents. Very high. Role of the parent is that of the teacher and guide. It comes with a great responsibility. Job is not to get your children to just conform to high standards. That's not the job. Any Pharisee can conform to a high standard. The goal is to love the high standards. Love the standard, right? So it's to see that in a disciplined life, there's liberty, which seems backwards, but it's not. A highly disciplined life will give you freedom. Like, yeah, but you're imposing all of these rules on yourself. Be disciplined. Like, yeah, that way you can do what you want. Instead of being led to and fro by your whims, by your lusts. When you are disciplined about doing what needs to be done, then you're free to do what you want to do. That's how it works. So if we discipline, because discipline is not just punishment. Right? Punishment is you've violated a rule or a law, and now imagine this: a murderer caught, brought through the justice system, right, and they're sentenced to death and they're executed. That's a punishment, right? We're not expecting the murderer to learn anything. Discipline, the goal is to learn. You're supposed to discipline your children. So there might be negative consequences or positive consequences. However, and we talked about that weeks and weeks and weeks ago, whether it's positive or negative reinforcement, the goal is to learn. The goal is to teach. The goal is to have them fall in love with a disciplined life. And then once they love that and they see the benefits of it, they see the wisdom of it, then they'll do it for themselves. But if we're just saying, no, you have to hold this standard just because, it may not turn out so well. Conformity to a standard can be just outward only, right? That's why I brought up the Pharisees. Pharisees conformed to a very strict standard. Everyone thought them super holy, but Jesus criticized them harshly. Why did he do that? He pointed out their hypocrisy. What was their hypocrisy? They would keep their own standard, which would be their own rules, right? Not necessarily the rules of God. They would set aside the rules of God in order to keep their own standard. Then they thought themselves holy because of that. Then they would impose really, really, really strict rules on everybody else and expect everybody to be perfect. And would not impose those same rules that they're imposing on others on themselves. So one standard for me, another standard for you, and that makes me better than you. Just rank hypocrisy. That's a Pharisaical way of doing it. And if we're not careful, as parents, we can start being like that. We can expect our children to do things that we wouldn't do ourselves, or that we are not currently doing ourselves, that we're not modeling for our kids ourselves. That's hypocrisy. They'll see right through it. If we're going to have a standard, everyone has to keep it. So, in these verses, and this is really the first two that we looked at, Proverbs 1, 8 through 9, and Proverbs 23, 22, 25. How can children show honor to their parents? By listening attentively to their instruction and wisdom. Parents have more life experience, and their intention is to point their children in the right direction. There are very few parents who just care nothing about their children, like absolutely nothing about their children. Pass on absolutely nothing to their children. That's a very rare case. For the most part, in general, because we're in Proverbs, in general, parents pass on their life wisdom to their kids. If whether they've had a really, really good life experience or really terrible life experience, pass on what they know. That's what's going to happen. Sometimes parents are not great people. Sometimes they have not dealt with their own life baggage, and that will have an effect on the kids. So does that mean that children may dishonor their parents? No. It doesn't mean that. What it means is salute the rank, not the man. Children must learn about how to behave within authority structures, even if the authority structure that they're living in is a bad example of one. You still have to learn that. Even when the authority structures that they have sinful people in charge. Do you think they're going to eventually get a job with a sinful person in charge? I think it'll be important for them to understand how to behave under under an authority, it will be. So even if it's a bad example, you can still learn from it. Now this is all like up here in like philosophy land, right? General principles and stuff. And I'm not really addressing the heartache that comes along with dealing with parents that might not be great people. There's a whole emotional, intellectual side to that that's difficult. But as far as what the Bible is teaching us, children are still expected to honor their parents. And it's right for parents to expect that. And parents should earn that. If you expect to be honored, be honorable. Like, well, the Bible says that they're supposed to honor your father and mother. Like, well, if you have to bring that up, there's probably a problem there. Now, it might not be. It might be the kid is just being utterly rebellious and is not listening to anything. And, that could be the case too. Again, as far as general principles go, parents are the authority. Children are expected to honor, listen, and obey parents. Children show dishonor by treating their parents' instruction lightly, being callous towards their behavior and how their behavior affects their parents, right? A wise son maketh a glad father, but a foolish son despiseth his mother. He that begetteth a fool doeth it to his sorrow. The father of a fool has no joy. A foolish son is a grief to his father, and bitterness to her that bare him. What should children do? Hearken unto thy father that begat thee, and despise not thy mother when she is old. Buy the truth and sell it not. Also wisdom and instruction and understanding. Father of the righteous shall greatly rejoice, and he that begetteth a wise child shall have joy of him. Thy father and thy mother shall be glad, and she that bare thee shall rejoice. So there's a reward. Right? There's a reward for actively listening to your parents versus despising your parents' wisdom. What's that reward? In Proverbs 1:8-9, it's ornament of grace and chains. This means is grace. It means pleasant, agreeable, gracious, and charming. Those kinds of children are set up for success. Have you ever met a pleasant, agreeable, gracious, and charming child and been like, oh, I hate that kid? No, you haven't. You've been like, man, I wish all kids were like that kid. Right? Yeah, they're set up for success. They will command respect and admiration from everybody. And I know when I say children, immediately, almost always, our mind goes to like this big. That's a child. But I'm still a child of my father and of my mother. Right? Do you think I would disappoint my parents? I just, went off the deep end, right? So keep that in mind too. Wise parents lead their children in the way that they should go, and wise children will listen, follow their parents' wisdom into prosperity. Proverbs 10:1, it's gladness or heaviness. That's the result. That's what you get. That's either rejoicing or grief. You think either in your own life or of people that you know, where it's like, oh, they're rejoicing over their children. Or like, oh, they're grieving children. Like that's the result of either taking your job seriously or not. Or just you could do your best and raise your children in the way that they should go, and then they can just completely rebel against it. They have a will as well. And again, Proverbs aren't promises. You could do the best that you can, and they could just choose to do otherwise. That's at that point, it's not on you. They're making their own choices, and God will hold them accountable for their own choices. But does that mean you're not going to grieve over that? No. Still, grief is still going to be the result. Or joy, or rejoicing. Like, oh man, I didn't think they were going to make it, and then something happened in their life, and they turned it around, and now things are going well. lots of things can change in life. Lots of things. It might take 10 years. Like sometimes I think of my older brother and I'm like, I didn't think he's gonna make it. you know, now he's doing really well right now. Like, all right, took 15 years, but hey, good for you, brother. Good for you. Life can be like that though. So, principle here is children, your actions do not only affect you, affect your parents as well. Sorrow, grief, bitterness, rejoicing, joy, all of those are the result of your behavior. How it's going to affect your parents. Proverbs 11:29. He that troubleth his own house shall inherit the wind, and the fool shall be a servant, the wise of heart. So, he that troubleth his own house, when it says inherit the wind, when you hear inherit, think, oh, okay, an inheritance. So if your inheritance is the wind, what do you have? Nothing. Can you grab the wind? You can try. Nothing is in your hand. If you trouble your own house, what do you get? Nothing. The fool shall be servant to the wise of heart. So, children who make life difficult for their family will find themselves cut out of the will. I mean, just pretty practical application, right? Wind is something that can't be grasped. And so you end up with empty hands and this person will have to sell himself into slavery, right? The fool shall be the servant or the slave of the wise of heart. Think of the prodigal son. What did he do? I want my inheritance now. And then he troubled his house. Dad, I wish you were dead so I could have my inheritance now. Got it. Blew it away. And ended up being a slave. Yeah, Proverbs 11:29. Right there. Children, your actions do not only affect. Proverbs 17:2. A wise servant shall have rule over a son that causes shame, and shall have part of the inheritance among the brethren. So, again, there's consequences for your behavior. Sometimes wisdom will trump. Sometimes. And this is a great plot for a movie. Think of some movies where this is basically the plot. I thought of a couple, right? The movie Gladiator, Russell Crowe, year 2000. Great movie, lots of Stoic philosophy. The main plot of that movie is the emperor is not going to give the empire to his son. He's going to give it to Maximus, this general, because he has more wisdom than his son does. Joaquin Phoenix plays a very creepy son, very creepy. He kills his father and then tries to kill Maximus. He ends up killing his wife and son as well. All Maximus. All he wanted to do was get home and till the earth. That's all he wanted to do. He gets home, wife and son killed. He ends up a slave, ends up a gladiator, and then has his vengeance. But the whole plot turns around this. There's a son that causes shame. Servant took his place. Then the son tried to take it back. He ends up dying in the end. And the justice is just poetic justice in 2.5 hours. It's beautiful. A more contemporary movie, perhaps. I mean, anyways, I could talk about movies for a while. A more contemporary example is Knives Out. There's a servant. She literally just mops the floors and takes care of this old author. She gets everything in the will, while the spoiled children who are waiting for the rich father to die, they get nothing. A lot of that, and then it's a murder mystery, and then a thriller, and then another murder mystery. Anyways, this is a plot of a movie. Because when you look at it, you go, oh man, that's a terrible situation. That shouldn't happen, right? But a son that causes shame, what are they going to get? Nothing. Going to get anything. Hmm. Yeah. So if Jesus is the servant, right? So Adam first, right? The first Adam, he he caused shame, and yeah, and then the servant of Isaiah 50. Oh man, that fits. See, the Bible's so cool. Like it just fits together. Oh man, I love it. Destructive relationships. So more about parents and children. When children begin to believe the lie that there's no authority higher than themselves, it causes destruction in the family relationships. So Proverbs 19:26. He that wasteth his father and chaseth away his mother is a son that causeth shame and bringeth reproach. Proverbs 28:24. Whoso robbeth his father or his mother and saith, it's no transgression, same as a companion of a destroyer. So this robs and chasing off. So the waster of his father in chapter 19:26. Similar, the wasting and the robbing, those are very similar ideas. It gets translated as wasteth, but it's very similar to robbing. So robs his father of maybe an inheritance, what he has, and chases away his mother. So maybe a son who wants his inheritance now, and so forcibly ejects his parents from the property. Anders, in his commentary, he has this quote: in the ancient world, few crimes were more serious than mistreating parents. It is a rejection of the most direct form of authority. Bad enough to disregard the instructions of a parent, but to actually abuse them is despicable. And receiving such treatment hurts even more when you receive it from your own son. Awful. Jesus talked about this in the New Testament. It's this idea of Corban. Remember this in the Gospels? Criticized the Pharisees about this. I don't think I put it. In Mark 7:9-13, I'll read it to you. And he said to them, full well ye reject the commandment of God. So this is talking to the Pharisees. Full well ye reject the commandment of God, that ye may keep your own tradition. For Moses said, honor thy father and thy mother, and whoso curseth father or mother, let him die the death. But ye say, if a man shall say to his father or mother, it's Corban. Now Corban it's like Hebrew word that's gets transliterated into Greek, and then we don't translate. But Corban is a word that means it's a gift. I'm promising this to God. That's what it means. So it is Corban, that is to say, a gift, by whatsoever thou mightest be profited by me. So what's happening is parents spend their lives taking care of their children. Fathers take responsibility over their children, provide a life for them. And then when children get older, they provide for themselves. But as their parents get older, the relationship should be reciprocated. Children now provide for parents, take care of them. Well, the Pharisees had this way of getting out of that responsibility. They would say, oh, all this provision, like let's say I'm the son and my parents are like, oh, we need help. I go, oh, sorry, I can't help you. I already promised all of this money to God. It's already spoken for. So be warmed and be filled. It's Corban. I don't know what to tell you. You want me to dishonor God? What kind of parents are you? And it rejects the clear law of God. This is commandment number 4. Honor your father and your mother. So, by whatsoever thou mightest be profited by me, ye shall be free. And ye suffer him no more to do aught for his father or his mother, making the word of God of none effect through your tradition which ye have delivered. Many such things do ye. Again, pointing out their hypocrisy. That kind of a son is a companion of a destroyer, ruins lives, bringeth reproach, causeth shame, has no regard for the struggles and the toil. That doesn't mean much. It's awful. Proverbs 20:20. Whoso curseth his father or his mother, his lamp shall be put out in obscure darkness. So this is just a direct violation of the law. Leviticus 20, verse 9 says, for everyone that curseth his father or his mother shall surely be put to death. He that curse his father or his mother, his blood shall be upon him. Exodus 21, verse 17. And he that curseth his father or his mother shall surely be put to death. Like, whoso curseth his father or his mother, what's going to happen to them? What they're doing to their parents will turn back onto them. The curse is on the child who curses his. Because again, you're subverting the most basic structure of authority for all society. If there's no authority in the family, why would you take seriously any other form of authority? You haven't learned that in your family. Like it's a high calling, it's a high responsibility. And that's all summed up in this word curse. So a few weeks ago, we talked about cursing and we talked about cursing. And cursing is to call down death and destruction by the hand of God on someone else. That's a curse. You're invoking the divinity to destroy someone. Like that's a curse. So when a son does that to his parents, I wish you were dead. Like it's not just like, oh, he just popped off at the mouth and now there's the death sentence for him. That seems a bit extreme, law of God in Leviticus and Exodus. Like, no. This is just kind of summarizing, distilling a relationship down to this curse is paradigmatic of kind of relationship that the son has with the father or mother. And that subversion of authority and all of that is deserving of death. The Old Testament. Kind of serious. His lamp shall be put in obscurity. Oh, husbands and wives. All right, Proverbs 18:22. So this is from Anders' commentary again when it comes to husbands and wives. Men realize that marriage to a godly, capable woman is one of life's greatest blessings. But life together can be miserable if you let the relationship deteriorate. Summation. 18:22. Whoso findeth a wife findeth a thing, and obtaineth favor of the Lord. All the wives said, Amen. Preach it, brother. Come on. Give me some more of that. Again, family is a blessing, not an automatic one. Like, is this always true in every marriage? Have you seen marriages that are like, I want to be. Right. Now, this is still true. Both of those things can be true because it's a blessing, yes, but it's not an automatic one. You have to work to keep it. So, whoso findeth a wife, and just for the record, post this on YouTube. This is a man who finds a wife. So findeth a wife, findeth a good thing. Good thing. It's a blessing, and obtaineth favor of the Lord. So, what was the first thing that was not good about God's creation? Remember, God creates everything in 6 days. He rests on the seventh, speaks it into existence. He looks at it and goes, good. Forms creation, and then he fills it with life. Every day, he looks at it and he goes, good. That's right. It is not good that man should be alone. That's the only thing that's not good in all of creation. I will make him a companion, a helper that is fit for him, that's comparable to him, someone that can be in front of him, that's like him, but is not him, fills in what he's lacking, and he fills in where she's lacking. The idea. It's a companion, a helper to go through life with. An equal from the side, not from the foot, right? So that man can fall over woman. From the side, a companion to be side by side with. When man was alone, bad. Not good that man should be alone. I'm going to make him a companion. This good thing, it describes that which is pleasing to God, beneficial for life, and abundantly enjoyable. And favor is a pleasurable gift from the Lord. Like, that's what a wife is. Find a wife, you obtain a pleasurable gift from the Lord. Directly from the Lord. It's beautiful. Proverbs 14:1. Every wise woman buildeth her house. I thought of you when I was reading one of your favorite verses. Every wise woman buildeth her house, but the foolish plucketh it down with her hand. So her house is her household. Like, I don't know, brick and mortar and really go to town on your, I mean, you've probably renovated a few things. I'm not going to, sneeze at that. But what this is getting at is a household, right? Family. What it's getting at. The Faith Life Study Bible has a note on this verse. It says, this woman is described as building her household, which in the ancient Near East would have involved having children, raising a family, and caring for the household economy. A wise woman cares for her family and causes it to flourish. A foolish woman just tears it apart. Don't be a fool. We have way more to talk about that. But that was the second bell. So I'm going to actually do the right thing and stop. We don't. Well, that's right. You mark it. What's today's date? December 17th. Yeah, it happened. I'm gonna take a note and remember, because it's happening. Let's pray. Our Father in heaven, thank you so much for your wisdom. Thank you for your word. I pray it's been an encouragement and a challenge. Lord, I pray that we can take this and chew on it and ponder it and think about how we can more align ourselves with wisdom. I pray that you'd help us to worship you, our worship be pleasing to your sight. Thank you for all the blessings and the gifts that you help us to use those things, blessing to others. Lord, I just pray for the service, for Pastor as he's going to be preaching, Amy as he's leading us in the music to praise you. I pray it would be pleasing to you. Lord, I pray for tonight. I pray for the play that's going to be happening, the musical. I pray you would feel healthy and be able to do the. Thank you for your wisdom, for your grace. Thank you for giving us everything we need and more. Help us to be grateful, honor you with our